You were taught that the human body is failing because modern life made us soft, that our grandparents were tougher, our ancestors stronger, and that weakness is the price of comfort. That story is wrong, not slightly wrong, fundamentally wrong. The human body did not suddenly forget how to be resilient in the last 100 years. The systems that fed it changed instead. Before we go further, pause for a second, comment yes if this already feels uncomfortable. Because once you see what actually happened to food, you cannot unsee it. The dominant story of modern health is simple and endlessly repeated. We are told that people today are weaker because they move less, eat too much, and expect comfort. That chronic illness is the natural result of indulgence. That our ancestors survived hardship while we collapsed under abundance. This narrative is comforting to institutions. It places blame squarely on individual behavior. If health fails, it is because you failed. You did not exercise enough discipline. You did not choose correctly. You did not try hard enough. Yet this story requires a strange assumption, that human biology, shaped over tens of thousands of years, somehow lost its competence in just a few generations. The same digestive systems, endocrine systems, immune responses, and cellular machinery that carried people through famine, winter, childbirth, infection, and labor suddenly became fragile when supermarkets appeared. History does not support this assumption. Biology does not support it. And neither does the lived reality recorded in medical, agricultural, and military records before the 20th century. To understand what changed, we must step backward, not into nostalgia but into evidence. In medieval Europe, most people lived close to the land. Their diets were not luxurious, but they were structurally dense. The bread was not white and fluffy. It was dark, fermented, and made from grains that still contained their germ and bran. Vegetables were eaten in season. Dairy was raw or lightly cultured. Meat was consumed less frequently, but when it appeared, it came from animals raised slowly, grazing on varied pastures. Monasteries kept meticulous records. So did estates and farms. These records show something striking. People required fewer calories than modern populations to maintain strength, fertility, and endurance. Not because they were smaller or weaker, but because their food carried more usable nutrition per bite. Early American settlers followed similar patterns. Food was local by necessity. Flour was milled close to where grain was grown. Butter was churned at home. Broth simmered for hours. Nothing was stripped, deodorized, or reassembled in factories hundreds of miles away. Children grew up eating foods their great-grandparents would recognize. And while life was undeniably harder in many ways, the chronic degenerative illnesses that dominate modern life were rare enough to be notable when they appeared. This was not because people were morally superior. It was because their food still behaved like food. The human body does not run on calories alone. It runs on signals. Every bite of food delivers instructions. Fats tell hormones how to behave. Minerals regulate electrical activity in cells. Proteins provide structure, repair, and immune defense. Enzymes and bacteria, once abundant in traditional foods, assist digestion before the stomach even begins its work. When food is whole, these systems work together. When food is stripped, refined, and reconstructed, those signals fragment. Refining grain removes the germ and bran, the very parts that contain B vitamins, minerals, and fats essential for nervous system function. Refining sugar removes the minerals that allow the body to process it safely. Industrial fats alter cell membranes themselves, changing how cells communicate. This is not controversial science. It is basic physiology. The body can survive on calorie-dense but nutrient-poor food for a time, but survival is not the same as resilience. Over years, the gaps accumulate, hormonal systems strain, inflammation becomes chronic, energy becomes unreliable. If this is changing how you see food, let the algorithm know by liking this video, not as a promotion, but as a signal that this history still matters. The most dramatic change in human nutrition did not come from overeating. It came from standardization. In the late 19th and early 20th centuries, food began to travel farther. Shelf life became more valuable than nourishment. Milling technology allowed flour to last months instead of weeks, but only by removing the parts that spoiled, which were also the parts that nourished. Oils were extracted using heat and solvents, not presses. Sugar became cheap, pure, and ubiquitous. Livestock were moved from pasture to confinement, altering the nutrient profile of meat and dairy. None of this happened in secret. It was celebrated as progress, cleaner food, safer food, more convenient food. But something quiet was lost: biological compatibility. The food still looked familiar, but it no longer interacted with the body the same way. When food lacks micronutrients, the body compensates until it cannot. Hunger becomes louder because calories arrive without the signals that say enough. Blood sugar spikes and crashes. Stress hormones rise. Sleep becomes fragile. Inflammation lingers at low levels, then higher ones. This is why modern illness is often diffuse. Not acute infection, but exhaustion. Not starvation, but deficiency hidden inside abundance. The body is not broken. It is responding logically to inputs that no longer resemble the food it evolved alongside. Traditional cultures did not count macros. They protected processes. They fermented grain instead of rushing it. They valued fat from healthy animals. They cooked slowly. They reused bones, skins, and leftovers because those contained what muscle meat did not. These were not trends. They were survival knowledge. Relearning this is not about retreating into the past. It is about restoring biological sense to modern life. We did not become weaker because we became lazy. We became depleted because the foundation beneath us thinned. Food is not just fuel. It is inheritance. When that inheritance is diluted, the cost appears quietly in energy, resilience, and health. If you want more of the history modern life forgot, subscribe and stay with us. And before you go, leave a comment, not with outrage, but with reflection. What part of this felt closest to the truth you were never told? If this is reframing what you thought you knew about food and strength, leave a comment or a like. Not for promotion, but to signal that this history still deserves attention.